What's up YouTube, Dao here from Zephyr War Games, and today I am bringing you a Blackwing profile. That's right, another deck from the 5Ds era. I did do Synchrons earlier this week, and Blackwings was a kind of deck that I didn't really ever get, but now I've been able to pick up all the pieces, put a list together, and I've had huge amounts of fun testing with it already. So, with all of that out of the way, I'm going to dive head first into the profile, show you everything we've got, explain my choices on this particular build, and then maybe at the end of the video, I'll try and do a test stand video as well, or I'll save that for a separate video if you want to be seeing more Blackwing content. If you do want to be seeing more content, please make sure you smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. With all of that out of the way, let's dive head first into a Blackwing profile. So, we start off with 3 of the sundry. So this is probably the most expensive card. It's a bit weird online because like there's some places doing it at £3, which is what I think it's worth. And then there's places doing it for like £5 to £8. So you should be able to pick up a playset for £10. Very cheap, very easy. Now, a lot of the Blackwing cards have a when this card is normal summon specifically, but then there are a lot of other Blackwings that just summon themselves if you control a Blackwing. So they get the best of both worlds, whereas this is probably one of your most important starters, and I'll go through all of them as we go. So when it is normal summon, you get to add a card that mentions Blackwind Dragon from the deck to the hand except himself. And you contribute 1 monster to special summon a Phantom token. It is a Winged Beast Dark, level 2, and then you get to take 700 damage. You can't special summon monsters from the extra deck for the entire turn that you activate this effect except Synchro monsters. Now obviously with the hybrid versions you are going into Links and XYZs, so you don't really need to be using its second effect, but its third effect is just so important because it will search you out all of the other more recent cards in the form of Shamal and the insane one of Vatter. Like I can't believe a deck got a card like Vatter, but I'll talk about that in a minute. The next pretty much main star is your Blackwing Saloon. This card's actually had, I think, like three prints or something crazy like that. If you control no monsters and have this card in your hand, you get to banish 1 other Blackwing monster from your hand. Place 1 Blackwell Wind from your deck face up into your spell and trap zone. Then either send this card to the graveyard or immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon it without tribute. Now that normal summon without tribute is an effect, so you still maintain your normal summon, which means you do then get the ability to go into a sundry a little bit later on as well, I believe. If I'm wrong on that, let me know in the comments. I'm a little bit new to this, but watching replays and everything else, I've seen a lot of people just go Saloon, Blackwell Wind trigger, search out, not the exact Whirlwind trigger, but then trigger and search out the sundry. So it's crazy how well this works, but you know. Also, after this effect resolves, normal summon it without tributing. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except dark monsters, which quite honestly I don't really mind that. I quite like the fact that it has a limitation on it. During the end phase, you send the Black Whirlwind placed by this effect to the graveyard, and if you do, you take 1,000 damage. Now, the chances are throughout your plays, because of a card like Vatter exists, you don't actually leave that card on the board, you bounce it back and recycle it. So then, of course, we've got the free Shamal. This is the one that lets you search out basically the new version of Black Whirlwind. So you send this card from the hand or field to the graveyard to place a Black Feather Whirlwind from your deck face up into your spell and trap zone. If a Blackwing Synchro monster or a Blackwind Dragon is special summoned to your field while this card is in the graveyard except during the damage step, you get to banish it and target a Blackwing monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, and then you take 600 damage. Now, a deck like this that wants to just burn for its life points really does rely on getting into Blackwing Dragon, which is why it's quite important, and a lot of the cards circle around to that. And then we're going to talk about what I personally feel is the most insane card. Like if this card was in any other deck, like if it was generic for Synchros, woof, it would be insane. So we've got triple Vatter. It is the second tuner, because this one's a tuner as well. But if you control a Blackwing monster other than itself, you get to special summon it. That's pretty cool in itself. Has to come from the hand. You can only special summon Vatter once per turn this way. So you can special summon it other ways, you just can't special summon it by its own effect. During your main phase, you can send this card on the field to the graveyard along with 1 or more non-tuner Blackwing monsters from your deck so that the total levels equal exactly 8. And if you do, special summon 1 Blackwing Dragon from your extra deck. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Darks, which doesn't matter because you're already locking yourself into Dark. Yes, I'm quite happy that this is limited to itself to only be able to summon the Blackwing Dragon, because if it could summon any level 8 Synchro, my days would that be mental. Absolutely love this card. The fact that it lets you synchro from deck is insane. And why that is so insane is it lets you Foolish Burial 2 of your powerful Blackwings, one in the form of the Hamata, and of course one of the Zephyros. Everyone should know Zephyros because this card has been in pretty much every deck, that rank 4 deck that can abuse it. And then the Hamata is the one that allows it to manipulate levels. Again, you play a lot of lower level Blackwings that can just summon themselves from the hand. So stuff like your Orochi and... where are you? There you go. And your Blackwing, Chris the Cracked, alongside your Gale as well. So all of these ones, including the Hamata, can special summon themselves if you control a Blackwing. This is a level 1 tuner, this is a level 3 tuner, this is just a level 4 extender, and this is a level 2 that can manipulate its level depending on what else you control. So it increases its level by what else you have on the board, which is really nice because you can use its effect to increase it by 1, and then straight away you've got Synchro 4. Obviously you want another card there, and that's where your Chris comes in because then that gives you your Synchro level 8. You then play another handful of one-offs. You've got the one Steam the Cloak, the one Uster, and the one Chinook. So all of these cards, again, they're one-offs. You don't really need more than them. The fact that Steam the Cloak is a once per duel effect is obviously why you really only want to be playing one of it. I kind of like the idea of playing this at more than one, but you just search it out. There's consistency there already. So you get to send this card from the hand or field to the graveyard to target a face-up monster your opponent controls. You send a Blackwing Synchro monster or one Blackwind Dragon from your extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do until the end of this turn, that target monster loses 700 attack and negate its effects. It's a quick effect if you control a Dark Synchro monster. Now, it's basically like a Veiler for the deck, which is searchable. I'm not entirely sold on it. It's kind of one of the ones where it's like, I want it at 3, so I'm always going to see it and always going to have it. But then you kind of want it at 1 because it will clog your hand up. So, give and take. Then, of course, the Uster can't be special summoned at all. When it is normal summoned, you get to target one of your banished level 4 or lower Blackwings and special summon it in defense. You get to banish this card from the graveyard to activate one of the following effects. Place black feather counters on one Blackwing Dragon you control, equal to the number of cards your opponent controls, or place a wedge counter on each face-up monster your opponent controls that does not have one. And obviously, wedge counters and black feather counters are all important for the other effects for your Blackwinged Assault Dragon and everything else. And then Steam the Clone when it uses Synchro or spawns a token. Pretty straightforward and simple on that one. So then we've got Raider's Wing. This is just a very nice level 4 for the deck. You can summon it out of the deck with your Link 2, which is your Y-Strix. And then it has the ability to detach another material from an XYZ and then bring itself back from the graveyard. So it's a way of kind of getting 3 materials on the board to instigate a rank 4, while also being able to bring back a level 4 as well. On top of that, when it is used as an XYZ for an XYZ monster whose original attribute is dark, your opponent cannot target it with card effects. It's really good because it allows it to dodge stuff like Imperm and everything else. The last 2 cards, main monsters apart from hand traps we play, is the one Destrudo and the one Raiden, the multi-dimensional Kaiju. Now these are basically for small world bridges, but the issue is I'm not really, like through testing, I haven't tested it as much as I want to, but through testing I'm not really using Destrudo as much as I would like. The reason for the Kaiju is actually really important is because a lot of people are now trying to play around stuff like Lava Golem. This deck can't really play Lava Golem or Rasphere mode because it needs its main normal summon. Yes, it can get extra normal summons, but it can get a little bit tricky if you're relying on just that part of the effect. So being able to kind of small world into a Kaiju or into a Destrudo gives you an extension for synchro plays, or gives you instant ways that your opponent has to negate that small world. If they don't negate that small world, you get a Kaiju, you take away their most important monster, and then hopefully you're able to continue to play for free without them interrupting you. Then the most important hand trap of this format, in my opinion, is Ash Blossom. The reason this is the most important hand trap, in my opinion, is purely because Brand Fusion stops them instantly. Yes, Imperm is just as good, and I haven't got that in the main deck because I'm playing like a go second card rather than Imperm. I know Imperm can be go first, go second, but I'm playing a more consistent card that I feel, you know, it can easily be Nibiru, but also helps you. Actually, you know what? Let's just put it on the board. So the other card that I'm playing that could very easily be a Nib, it could be Imperms, was Book of Eclipse. And the reason I went with this over anything else is it's just a really kind of good board breaker that can be utilized going first or second. Like, if your opponent breaks your board, you actually have the ability of recouping a lot of your resource. So you don't mind Book of Eclipse in your opponent, so you don't like get OTK'd that turn. It's also a very good one going second as well. It deals with the board lockout if they've got it. It can also do the same job as an Imperm. The only issue is this will lose to a Ash Blossom, whereas Imperm doesn't. But what this will do is it will bait out an instant negate from something like a Dragoon, a Baron, anything like that, as well as an Imperm. So Imperm can't deal with Dragoon, whereas this can. So you've got the benefit of kind of dealing with as much as you can. Moving on to the draw spells, I've chosen to go with Allure of Darkness on this one. You can play Pot of Prosperity, but I quite like Allure of Darkness. I feel that it does give me a little bit of an additional advantage in the fact that playing stuff like your Black Feather Whirlwind gives you access to be able to bring back one that is banished or in the graveyard. So, you know, it's not really the out and out negative of something like this. So definitely something to consider. Then, of course, we've got 3 Blackwell Wind. I'm not I'm going to bounce back between 2 and 3. I'm playing 3 at the moment to see how it works, see if I'm happy with this ratio, and then if not, I'll go down to 2. But I think it really comes down to personal preference. Like, if you're constantly seeing this and you're bricking your hands on it, a lot of people will cut it to 2, but then you might not see it enough, and then they'll bounce it back to 3. So, you know, this one definitely a 2 in my opinion. Arguably, you could even put it at 1, but I think 2 is perfect the ratio. So this is Black Feather Whirlwind. So Blackwell Wind is when a Blackwind monster is normal summoned specifically to your field, you get to add a Blackwind monster from your deck to the hand. Now that is not a once per turn, so every single time you normal summon, you will get a additional search, and that's very important with the stuff of Simoon, your additional normal summon off of your level 6 Synchro, your Newfong. So it gives you a lot to kind of play around with and a just insane advantage. It's like if you get all 3 of these and a Blackwind that can be normal summoned, you're just going to plus for days. And then you saw all of the Blackwinds to just special summon themselves for free. It's mental. And then the Black Feather Whirlwind. So once per turn, if you special summon a Dark Synchro monster from your extra deck, except during down state, you get to target one of your banished Blackwind monsters or Blackwind Dragon that is banished or in the graveyard with less attack than that special summon monster and special summon it. Once per turn, if a dark monster you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you get to remove a Black Feather counter from your field instead. And again, there are cards that are going to be producing Black Feather counters quite nicely. So that is very, very important. It kind of gives you the balance of everything you need. And then we've got Small World. I've only got 2 at the moment. Again, this is one of the ones where bounce back between 2 and 3. You want 3 for consistency, but then if you open up a hand of all spells, it's completely dead. If you open up double Small World, they're both dead. Like, well, one's good, one's completely dead. So you kind of need to balance it out, and 2's kind of working okay for me during testing at the moment. The last one has got the 1 rank up Phantom Knight. So this is just being able to turn your 4 Strix into a Ultimate Falcon, and there are other ways of doing this. Like, there are different rank ups you can play that get you into the rank 5, like the Dark Rebellion XYZs and everything else. I'll try to keep it at a minimum, but the combo is very easy to get to this, and I'll try and show you that in a test stand at the end. And then the last card I'm playing is 2 Blackwing Twin Shadow. Now this is a card that you should arguably be playing at 1. A lot of profiles I've seen are only playing it at 1. I'm just like, yo, this card is mad. Who thought that an idea of shuffling 2 of your Blackwing monsters, 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner, that are banished and or in your graveyard into the deck or extra deck to special summon a Blackwing Synchro monster or a Blackwing Dragon from your extra deck whose levels equal the total levels of those 2 monsters. It's treated as a Synchro summon. Now naturally, if that was the only part of the effect, you would only be playing 1. However, if you control 2 or more Blackwing monsters, you get to activate it from the hand. You can only use activate 1 Blackwing Twin Shadow per turn. It's the fact that I can Synchro during my opponent's turn. I know it's only going to get me into a Blackwing card or a Blackwing monster, but that's really important because I am also playing in the main deck the 1 Tri-Brigade Shirag. And the reason this is good is I get a banish and a Synchro summon during my opponent's turn. Really, really funny. Really, really nice. If it was any Synchro monster using Blackwing monsters, whoa, I'd be so happy to do so. But yeah, I also quite like Twin Shadow because it reminds me of My Hero, like just Dark Shadow. Really cool, and it even looks like it as well. I think you could arguably change this to be like a My Hero artwork. So yeah, I thought it was really cool. Again, I can see reasonings behind putting it to 1. I'm not married to the idea of having it at 2. It's just something that I thought, this card's really cool through testing. There was a couple of times I was like, right, I wonder what would happen if I had 2 of this. So I'm still testing it out, still diving into it, and then see if it works or not. Before we get onto the Synchros, we'll go over the XYZ. So obviously the XYZs, we've got the 1 4 Strix and the 1 Ultimate Falcon. Ultimate Falcon is just an insane boss monster that you can get to quite easily. You will be pumping a lot of darks into the graveyard, and the fact that you can activate this during the turn you set it, because you will set it off of the Raid Rat to Y Strix, is mental. So this one is, if it is linked summoned, you get special on a level 4 Dark Wind Beast monster from the deck, and that's where your main deck Raid Raptor is going to come from. You negate its effect only while it's on the field because it reset when it's in the graveyard. It can't be used as link material, which is absolutely fine. If your Raid Raptor XYZ monster's effect is activated, you set a rank up magic spell directly from your deck. And if it is a quick play, you get to activate it this turn. So like, that's absolutely mental. You could play another one that I think it's like the one that's a normal spell. but it costs you life points to play it. But the idea is that you basically go this, you go into Force Tricks detach to search, then you can use the Raid Raptor from the main deck, use this effect to detach the other material off of the back of the Force Tricks, which will put your Raiders Wing. There you go, I'll get to it eventually. You then get to detach, bring this back, so you've got another monster on the board, or another body on the board. You then get to activate the Phantom rank up, banish 6 from the graveyard, and get to go into your Ultimate Falcon. And then you've got an insane boss monster in Ultimate Falcon that's just going to burn your opponent and reduce their attacks. And then off the back of that as well, all you need to do is get one more additional monster on the board, and you can go into this. And even if you do want to do it that way, you get the additional monster on the board and you go into your Shurag, then you can actually hold this back. And then what you do is you trigger this during your opponent's turn, go into Ultimate Falcon. Not only will you have an insane boss monster on the board, but then you'll also be able to Shurag banish one of your opponent's cards. The only risk of that is that this is during the main phase, so your opponent has to do something first in order for you to trigger this. Moving on to the Synchros. So for our 6s, we've got the one Blackwing Wind. This is basically your Synchro tuner. So one Dark Tuner plus one or more non-tuners. If it is Synchro summoned, you get to send a Blackwing from the deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's level becomes the same as that monster. When this card destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you get to banish a Blackwing monster from your graveyard or face on the field, except the destroyed monster, and special summon the destroyed monster to your field in defense. It's a nice way of being able to steal and kind of go from there. The one Nufeng, so Nufeng is your time con, like it burns in time. It also gives you an additional normal summon, which can be very, very important and kind of works it nicely. I forgot an XYZ, so I'm going to slide it in here. The XYZ is Evil Swarm Nightmare. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be like, what the actual F is that? Well, Evil Swarm Nightmare, if you haven't heard about it, it requires 2 level 4 Dart monsters. When your opponent special summons a monster or monsters, you get to detach a material from this card and change that special summon monster to face down defense. The reason that's so good is you can Book a Moon in your opponent's monsters, and we all know against the Cash Tira matchup, Book a Moon in your opponent's monsters is just as painful as anything else. The fact you can Book a Moon it and make their Theosis fizzle, the fact that you can, well, not fizzle because you'd have to Book a Moon their first summon. It stops everything else unless they've opened up Birth. And even then, they have to normal summon off the back of that Birth. And then when they special summon one back, Book a Moon it. Book a Moon your opponent's Shangri-La, Book a Moon their Raitar, anything like that. It's such a good card. And it's not a hard once per turn. It's just a when effect. So it, specifically when it triggers, effect Book a Moon. I've then got the one Cyverse Quantum Dragon in here. I'm not set on this card at all. It's just like a last minute, oh, okay, I can make 7s quite easily. I don't want to go, like, I can try, I'm probably going to go back to the Blackwing Joe. So this is probably one that I'm going to go back to, but I just wasn't consistently getting level 5 or highs in the graveyard on a consistent period to bring them back. But I can definitely see a reason behind having Joe back in it. So I'm in an iron about what I'm going to do with this. It's just a flex spot at the moment. You can change that for whatever you want. I've gone with 2 Blackwind Dragon just because, obviously, off of your twin, you can go into a Blackwind, you can go into a Blackwind Dragon. It's a very nice aggressor, so just nuking the board and everything else you need to. The one Savage, pretty straightforward on that one. And then another spice that I've added in is the Satellite Warrior, because look at the amount of synchros we are producing in general. You can pump your graveyard through quite a lot of synchros, and then when you summon out Satellite Warrior during your turn, you get to utilize this effect to pop cards equal to the number of synchros in your graveyard with different names, and then it will gain 1,000 for each one that it pops. So it becomes an insane boss monster. 2 Blackwing Assault Dragons, again, a flex spot. You probably arguably put this down to 1 in my opinion. And then the one Full Armored Master. Both of them are like... the issue with these cards I'm not entirely set on is that they spawn the tokens or spawn the counters. So must either be Synchro Summoned or Special Summoned from the extra deck by banishing 1 Tuna Synchro monster and 1 Blackwing Dragon. The only Tuna Synchro that we have is the Biostorm, or the Wicked Wind, and so it's a little bit more difficult to deal with. From face up in the field or graveyard, each time your opponent activates a monster effect, you place a black feather counter on this card. When that effect resolves, and if you do, inflict 700 damage to your opponent. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can tribute this card with 4 or more black feather counters on it, destroy all cards on the field. So the issue is it destroys all cards on the field, so unless you're protecting your stuff with your Black Whirlwind and everything else, you're basically just torrential tribute in or like dark hole in or completely nuking the entire board, and it even gets rid of this, which is annoying. But it's still good as an overall board wipe. Then the Full Armor is unaffected by other card effects, which is nice because if you get the pair of these out, you basically nuke the board and then this stays alive. Each time an opponent's monster activates this effect, you place a wedge counter on that opponent's monster. After that effect resolves, once per turn you get to target 1 monster your opponent controls with a wedge counter and take control of it. Once per turn during the end phase, you can destroy all monsters on the field that have a wedge counter. Now again, it's during your end phase, so I've got to make this, put wedge counters on it, and they still survive. And it's not a quick effect to steal. I really wish that a card that you've got to go level 10 in that needs specifically a Blackwing tuner and a one or more non-tuners, you could quick effect steal, and during the end phase, nuke the board. Like, that would have been ideal for a card like this. You're still going to play it. It is still one of your main boss monsters alongside the Assault Dragon. So it's not the end of the world. But it's just one of the ones where I feel it could have been a little bit better. And it wouldn't have really changed. Like, it wouldn't really have gone, oh, Blackwinds are now insanely broken. Like, we can't have them. We need to ban them, kind of thing. Okay, so now we're going to do the test stand for this. So after a very decent shovel and a cut, our random hand will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Jeez, what is that? Okay, I'm pretty sure this is still actually really insane combo. So we normal summon the Sundry. Sundry's effect is going to go off to let us add a monster list Blackwing Dragon. So we're going to add this. We're going to use Shamal's effect, which is going to allow us to activate the Black Feather Whirlwind face up. Then, because we control a Blackwing, we get to special summon down the Vatter. Vatter's effect is then going to send itself plus a level 4 and a level 2. And the ideal ones you want to be sending are the Hamata and definitely, right at the top, I bet it is. Where are you? Your Zephyros the Elite. So you send those to the graveyard. You sink into Blackwing Dragon, which is really nice. You get to trigger the Whirlwind's effect. You can also trigger the effect of Shamal. Shamal would then banish to add one of these back to the hand. Now, the only one worth adding back to the hand, in my opinion, is the Hamata, because it'll be a free extender later on. And you bring back your Vatter. You then use the effect of Zephyros to add this back, and you would have taken burn damage off of the back of this and off of Zephyros, but instead you put counters on your Blackwing Dragon to stop that happening. You then activate the Black Feather Whirlwind again because it is a soft once per turn. So it means when you do summon out another Dark Synchro, you will get an additional effect off the back of that. We'll then sync these together. So we'll go into a level 6, which will be your No-Fung. No-Fung will give you an additional normal summon, which is really important. And you can trigger the Black Feather Whirlwind now if you want to. And it's definitely worth doing because you kind of want to just loop your tuners in the form of the Vatter. Vatter can't be special summoned by its own effect more than once, but it can just keep coming back off of the back of the Black Feather Whirlwind. Burn your opponent for 800, then you'll get the additional normal, so you can normal summon the Sundry. Sundry's effect's going to go off. It's going to allow you to add a card that lists Blackwing Dragon in its text. So we are going to search out our twin shadows. And then, like I said, it's all about looping tuners. That's where the most important thing comes into play. So you want to make sure that if you're going to conduct a link summon, you do not use this, because that will royally screw you. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the No-Fung and we're going to use the Sundry and we're going to go into Y-Strix. We'll then be able to use Y-Strix effect to special summon one from the deck. And that's going to allow us to special summon out our Raid Raptor or Raider's Wing. And then what you want to do here is you want to overlay these two into your Force-Strix. Use Force-Strix effect specifically to put the Raider's Wing into the graveyard. And this will allow you to add a Blackwing monster, but basically a level 4 Darkwing Beast. So specifically what you want to do is you want to basically search a follow-up for the next turn. Annoying, it's not a level 4 or lower, but I can go in for Chris, which is going to be a free extender. You can use the effect of the Y-Strix. This is going to allow you to set directly from the deck and use it, if you want to, your rank up Magic Force. Let's bring these in a little bit. There we go. So now you've got a couple of options here. You can use Raider's Wing, and that will detach from the back of that to summon itself back. You've got instant synchro level 6 there if you want to, and you've also got the ability to special summon down Chris and Hamata. You now control 2 Blackwings as well, so if you want to, you can utilize the effect of the Twin Shadow, but that's only going to let you get to a level 8. So keep that in mind as well, that your limits for your Blackwings are like 8s, 10s, 6s, and unless you're playing Joe, which would be a 7. You want to leave this free as well because this is going to become your Raid Raptor, so it needs to, your Ultimate Falcon, so you need to keep that in mind as well. So what we're going to do here is we are going to, do I want to go into a level 6? No, not right now. So we'll go into a level 6 first without using the Twin Shadow. So we're going to use these two, and we're going to go into our Wicked Wind. Now with Wicked Wind, when it is synchro summoned, you get to send a Blackwing, and then this card's level becomes that level. So if you send a 4, it becomes a 4, you send a 2, it becomes a 2, and so on and so forth. So ultimately at this point, because you've got extenders as well, depending on where you want to get into, I'm trying to think if I actually want it to become anything. I don't think I do. If I leave it as a 6, I think I've got more plays to make if I leave it as a 6, because then that can get me into the Borrowload Savage Dragon. So what we'll do here is we'll special summon down Chris. So Chris has the ability, if you control a Blackwing other than itself, you get to special summon it. You can only special summon it once per turn this way. And once per turn, this card can not be destroyed by spell and trap effects. So again, special summon that one down. Special summon down the Hamata, and then you've got just extenders. And then what you want to do here is we need to get, so that's our Synchro 8. I've already gone through this. Kind of need to leave, do I want to leave that on board? I probably should leave that on the board, otherwise I'm going to go a little bit too far. So what you do is you get rid of the Blackwind Dragon, you get rid of your Y-Strix, and you get rid of your Chris, and you go into your Shurag, and then you can use this plus this. This will get you into your Savage. Savage effect will then equip the Y-Strix from the graveyard, and then you still have Twin Shadow if you want to. You don't control 2 Blackwings, so you need to make sure you use Twin Shadow a little bit earlier, but which is absolutely fine, because in this particular play, what we want to do is you can set this, and then you can pretty much pass it there. Now you can activate this if you want to, so if you're going to save the Shadow, you can activate this. Yes or no, it's set this turn, but 4 Strix lets you do that, and this will let you go into your Ultimate Falcon. And then what this does is during your opponent's turn, you pass to them. You've then got the ability to activate your Twin Shadows during any particular moment, so you're not restricted to being locked to the main phase, which is really important. So this one will then let you special summon a Blackwing Synchro monster or a Blackwind Dragon using 2 monsters. So we want to go into a Tuna Synchro, and a level 4. So we'll put, I think Chris is the best one to go back. No, we'll put Sundry back. There we go. So there you go back. And this will then let you summon out your Black-Winged Salt Dragon. I mean, you could have done this during your opponent's turn. Actually, you could have banished those, and then you could use this, and then this would get you into this. So, yeah, I probably could have done that a little bit better. That's just inexperience of the deck, but that then could have like pretty much got you this, and that's insane because then you can trigger the Shurag. Shurag will non-target banish. You still got the negate off the back of your Savage Dragon. You've got an Ultimate Falcon that's facing down. And then you've also got the effect of the Black Feather Whirlwind, which will trigger as well. I could bring back No Fun, would be pretty funny. It would inflict another 800 damage to your opponent. Could bring this back. Yeah, that would be funny. So then that's your end board. Or like board during your opponent's turn. So you've added basically your Armored Master during your opponent's turn, and then you've added this during your opponent's turn with a non-target banish, Ultimate Falcon they have to deal with, and Savage. Yes, a Book of Eclipse would be massively annoying, but if they Book of Eclipse early, you still maintain this. You still maintain the ability of, like, let's say they Book of Eclipse and you go, okay, cool. Oh, not this one, unaffected. Get lost. So you would lose this, and you'd lose Savage's negates, which is absolutely fine, but you probably would have negated it anyway. But what I'm trying to say is, worst case scenario, let's say they clear this board like this. You still have the ability to activate the Twin Shadows. Twin Shadows would then synchro into this, which would then allow you to revive this off the back of this, burn your opponent for 800, and Shurag non-target banish. So just constant ways of being able to interact with your opponent is really, really good. Yeah, and I really like synchro decks. I think the issue is, it's a lot more tricky for synchro decks like this to try and play around stuff like Nibiru and the stuff that is just coming like a common in the current meta. But it's still really, really cool, really, really fun. I enjoy this deck, and I've only just put it together like properly. So it's going to be very interesting to see where it goes from here. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. And if there is anything that I did wrong in the test stands, please let me know. I am always open to learning from mistakes in a build like this and just being able to play it better as we go forward. But as absolutely always, guys, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.